Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 2 in my partnership with Rock the Shot. Here talking all about business. This is the second episode. Last week we talked about Facebook and utilizing Facebook for your business. And today we're going to be talking about mixing business with friendship, or mixing money with friendship. And first I have to apologize about the quality of this video. I really wanted this to be super amazing, and I spent a whole day last week shooting this episode on my 5D, and it was so frustrating because I had no one to focus it for me, and of course it doesn't automatically focus. So I was running back and forth trying to focus it, and then when I did get it in focus, it only records in very short clips, and so I found that very frustrating. So bear with me here on my webcam. Next month I'm going to be getting the new Canon G1X when it comes out, and I'm excited out of my mind that is coming out soon. And so very soon these episodes are going to be looking much better. But for now, just imagine that we're Skyping. This is what it's like when I Skype with people, and we just sit and work things out and talk about things over the computer. So that's what we're doing today, so bear with me. These will get much better. But for now, what I really want to do is focus on getting you really good content. And I spent an entire day fiddling and, I'll admit, sometimes swearing at my camera. It was not going well. So here I am today. So we're going to just talk for a few minutes, and then we're going to head over to an interview that I did the other day with Jenika, who runs the Psychology for Photographers blog. And she's going to talk to us and impart some really amazing knowledge to us about working with friends and business. And she taught me a lot in that 10 minutes or so, and completely widened my perception of what it can be like to work with friends in your business, and got me thinking, you know, this doesn't need to be any different, because truthfully, I want to give all of my customers, all of my clients, the best possible experience. I treat them all like they're my friends, and they do become friends, actually. And, you know, we keep up with each other later on after our business interaction together. We remain friends. And so why should it be any different working with your people who are already your friends? It's just friends becoming clients rather than clients becoming friends. And at the end of the day, they're all my friends. So, you know, why not? I feel like, why not mix business and friendship? I have great products. I have really very good customer service. I pride myself massively on my ability as a photographer. I think I produce good imagery that people can cherish forever. So why wouldn't I want to give that to my friends? You know, when it comes to money, my business, I don't just pick numbers out of thin air and kind of go, oh, I think that would be good to charge. All of the fees that I charge for my sessions, all of the prices of my products have been very carefully calculated to pay for my overhead, but also pay myself a salary so that I can contribute to my family's finances. And so it's not, although it can seem like, oh, she's just, you know, making some money as a photographer on the side. Although it can seem like, because I'm not a brick and mortar business, being that I don't have a store, I don't have a storefront, it can be really easy, I think, for people, but even for ourselves as photographers, to downgrade our value and say, well, it's not like we're selling an actual, you know, it's not like we bought a teacup for, you know, £2 and we need to sell it for £10 to make, you know, to pay for our rent or whatever. We do, you know, you have to think about how much your equipment costs, how much you've spent on education, how many hours you've spent online reading my massive blog, you know, I don't know. All the things that went into creating those images for your friends and your clients. You know, so don't think of yourself as, you know, that you can just work for free all the time. I think it's really important to recognize your value and be able to impart to people the education of, you know, that we don't just pick our prices out of thin air, that there's a rhyme and a reason for everything. And I felt really empowered when I started out. I was Elizabeth Halford Photography, and I started this blog, and in between my sessions, I was writing things about photography, and I found myself very quickly having a following of photographers. And I was getting more emails about photography from an educational standpoint than from a client standpoint. And so that blog morphed into what it is today, which is a haven of education for photographers. And I needed to separate my shooting business from my writing and teaching and blogging business. So I named that Glacier Cake Photography, and I have a whole blog post about that. That didn't work out. I thought it was going to be quirky and memorable and interesting, but it just ended up being a pain and confusing for people. Thought I was a cake photographer, and so last year I changed to Gracie May Photography, which is very standard for a photography business. It's the name. It's someone's name, which is what a lot of people expect from a photography business, your name. But I already had a business with my name, so I named this one after my daughter, Gracie May. And so putting someone else's name on my business, you know, when it was Glacier Cake Photography, and now that it's Gracie May Photography, that helps me feel much better about my pricing. And I know I'm sidetracking here, but this is just my thought process here. But it made me feel much better about my pricing because I felt like I could, I am an employee of Gracie May Photography, and those are the Gracie May Photography prices. So, you know, when I get inquiries or when people try to, you know, browbeat me and ask if I could do everything for 10 pounds, I'm able to say, oh, I'm really sorry, I can't do that. Those sessions cost, you know, this much, or, you know, that print costs this much, and this is why. And so I felt much better about being able to stick with my pricing and stick with the structure of my business, because it wasn't just my name. People weren't just going, oh, that's just Elizabeth Halford Photography. I can get everything for nothing from her because she doesn't have a storefront or anything. And it's kind of like, I'm an employee of Gracie May Photography, and those are the Gracie May Photography prices. So that really helped empower me to feel much better about my pricing and be able to, you know, interact with my friends even on a business level and not just a friendship level, which Jenika is going to talk about in a minute in my interview with her. You know, she talked about you got the rules of business and then the rules of friendship, and they can cross over and work together, but you have to get on the same page with your friends before you enter into a business relationship with them, because you may be applying the rules of friendship while they're applying the rules of business, and then that is when it's not going to work. So she's going to talk about that in a minute. And you know, one of the things that stuck with me the most that you'll hear her say is that if there's a camera involved, there's a contract involved. And you know, that was actually a real light bulb moment for me as well, that there's nothing ugly about a contract. It's safety for me, and it's safety for my client and friend, and not just safety, not that we have to feel like we're protecting ourselves from each other, but it's just communication. And I think everybody appreciates that, actually, whether you call it a contract or an agreement. I think that your friends can learn to really appreciate your communication abilities, and so that's not something that we need to be afraid of. And I'm going to take a page from her book from now on and be employing written agreements a lot more than I have in the past. I feel much more empowered to do that now after speaking with Jenika. So there are a couple times that you might feel, you know, in light of the fact that hopefully after this video, if you didn't already feel this way, you may feel more empowered to work with your friends in your business and provide your business services to your friends. There may still be times where you feel that it's necessary to say no to an offer of a job from one of your friends. One of these opportunities, mostly in my mind, that I can picture would be weddings. I don't mind shooting weddings for people I know, for friends. I do it. However, there have been times, for instance, with family members, like my sister-in-law asked if I would be her wedding photographer, and of course I was also a guest at the wedding, and I wanted to be able to, you know, be a guest, and I know myself, and I know that when I'm working, I really flip inside out, and I I'm so engrossed in what I'm doing, which is why I need an assistant with me almost all the time, because I forget things. I have actually been known to, I have actually left my camera bag outside of my car with all of my gear in it and started to drive away once. And, you know, whoever was assisting me said, oh, you know, you're about to drive away with your camera equipment outside. Because I just, the only way I can put it is that my brain kind of flips inside out and I get so engrossed in what I'm doing, which I think is good. I think that's part of why I produce what I produce. I get so zeroed in. It's almost like I feel like I crawl inside the lens and when I'm doing a wedding, and that lasts for 12 hours, and I don't see anything other than my goal, which is to capture every moment and capture it perfectly. So, in light of that, I don't feel that I could possibly shoot a wedding for a family member. And it's a really big honor to be asked to photograph anyone's wedding. And so I really felt, I felt honored to be asked to photograph my sister-in-law's wedding. You know, if your family members, you might want to think, you know, you might get asked to do a family member's wedding and then think, ooh, they don't want me to be a guest or something. But in actual fact, if they didn't ask you in the first place, then you'd be like, what, they don't want me to be their photographer? So, you know, cut them some slack and be really thankful that I'm really thankful that people ask me, but sometimes I just have to say, it's in your best interest for me to not photograph your wedding because I want to be really present in the moment, and I don't feel that I'd be able to give you the absolute best if I'm torn between being a guest and being your photographer. So, you know, you can show them, whether it's a wedding, there's other opportunities that you might feel you need to say no thank you to from your friends. And so when that happens, you know, highlight the reasons why it's in their best interest for you to not say yes to that opportunity. And, you know, it's not always that way. You will be able to photograph friends' weddings at times, and I really enjoy it. I feel that when I actually have a deep personal connection with a couple on a personal note, I produce better work. And I also facilitate that with my wedding clients who aren't my friends by having an engagement session as part of our whole part of the whole package, because that helps me establish some sort of a friendship and camaraderie with the couple, so that it's not, their wedding day isn't the very first time I'm shooting them. So that's not to say that I don't have a deep personal connection with couples all the time. But yeah, so don't feel the need to say yes to everything when it comes to your friends. And if you have to say no, show them why it's in their best interest to for you to be saying no thank you to that opportunity. So those are the only things I can think of that I'd like to talk to you about now without spilling the beans on everything that Jenika is about to talk to us. So let's head over to my interview with Jenika and get a pen and paper, because you're going to learn a lot. I did. And thank you so much for joining me today, and I really look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much, and enjoy. Hi everyone, I'm here with Jenika McDavid, who is the mastermind behind the Psychology for Photographers blog. And it's a relatively new blog, but it's absolutely packed with wonderful information. And Jenika is an experienced blogger. This is just a new venture for her, the Psychology for Photographers blog. And I'm really excited every single time it pops into my inbox and on my Facebook feed. And if you haven't already liked her, run over there and like her. She's on my wall quite a lot because I link to her sometimes. And so Jenika started out in psychology with a bachelor's degree in behavioral neuroscience, and then went on to get her master's in clinical psychology with a view to become a psychology professor and have a doctorate. But she acknowledged that her biggest passion was photography, but she didn't want to leave the psychology behind. So she's fused the two, and now she's helping photographers get into the minds of their clients and really understand them better. And I think she's a really good person for us to be talking to today on the subject of friends and money. So thank you so much for joining us, Jenika.
Thank you.
So can you tell us, in your experience, what are the basic reasons why working with friends or fusing friendship and business might be a sticky situation?
Well, so there's sort of two sets of rules that people can apply to any situation. There's sort of the friendship rules and there's the business rules. And the problems come up with when you're working with friends is that people are not applying those rules at the same time. So for example, what usually happens is the photographer will say, okay, this is my friend, I'm going to treat them like a friend, and they'll do all kinds of extra things for the client, they'll give them extra time, they'll do extra edits, they'll put in all this extra work, and then the client is viewing this like a business relationship, and so the client will start demanding extra things, they'll try to get the most out of it they can for the least amount of money, and that just kind of hurts the photographer's feelings. And so sometimes the photographer will then say, okay, I'll start treating this like a business situation, and they'll start enforcing their policies, and they will, you know, say, no, that'll be some extra charge. And then the friend says, wait a minute, you're my friend, why are you treating me this way? So the problem arises is that nobody's on the same page about how the relationship is going to go before it even starts. That's where it comes from.
Wow. I never really thought of that before. So is there a way in your mind that you could get on the same page at the beginning of the whole thing, or would it just never happen?
Oh, absolutely. There's two things. One is you just have an explicit conversation about it. Just say, you're my friend, I love you, and just so you know, so you get the best service, I'm going to treat you like any other client. And just say it cheerfully, and nobody would have a problem with that, I don't think. And then the second way is because you're treating them like any other client, you have them sign a contract, just like you would have any other client sign a contract. And those two things combined address the problem up front, and you can refer to that conversation later if a problem does come up. You can say, remember, you know, this is what our contract said, this is how we said it was going to go. But that shouldn't be necessary if you have that conversation up front.
Okay. So so on the subject of contracts, do you think that there should always be a contract and also an image release? For example, if you took pictures of your friends' children and just kind of assumed that they would let you put them on your blog, do you think there should always be a release?
Okay, so for my business, if a camera is involved, a contract is involved. And I think people have sort of a misconception about what a contract means. A contract sounds like this scary, legally binding agreement that says, I don't trust you and therefore I'm making you sign this thing. And of course that sounds like a rotten thing to do to a friend. But what a contract actually says to me is, I care enough about this relationship to make sure that we both get exactly what we want and that there are no misunderstandings along the way. I mean, it's a very positive thing. It's all a contract is a list of expectations that you both have and that you both share up front. And that way everybody knows what's happening the whole time. It's very transparent. And for me, my image release is a part of the contract. Like I put it, it's in the contract that, you know, I will use your images in this way and your rights to the images are this. And I remind them about that again when I deliver the images, but it's in the contract. So it all comes together in one clump with my business.
That's really good. So some of the situations that you might face with fusing your photography with your friendship, not just the money, but also things like, for instance, I get emails from people saying things like, I walked into my friend's house and there was my picture printed badly off of, you know, a web version that they had, and it's all pixelated and stuff, and they have it displayed and they didn't pay me for it, they didn't ask me for it, and what do I do? So can you tell me what you think they are thinking when they go and do that with their images, and what do you think is a good way to approach that situation? Or not approach it at all. I mean, I don't know if it's like you have to pick your battles.
Yeah, well, that's definitely true, always true. Well, I think if it's a situation where a client has printed something that they shouldn't have printed, that's something that you should prevent. Like, I'll get to what you should do if it actually happens, but that's something that's just very preventable from the beginning. You explain, you know, the images that I put online are web resolution, which means they are not suitable for printing. I make that really clear up front. I put a watermark on it so that, you know, I make sure people know that they're not allowed to crop the image. So those points can all be addressed up front. You can explain clearly that if you would like, I sell printable, you know, print resolution files. You're more than welcome to purchase them. Here's the information for how to do that. And most of my clients get packages where images come with it, so it's not usually an issue. But usually I say up front, if you're interested in printing your own images, let me know up front, and we'll work out a package where you can do that and it'll be beautiful. I do also tell clients up front, you know, Walgreens is fine if you're printing like a 4x6 that's destined for the trash anyway, but wall art you really want to leave in the hands of a professional, and I explain all the reasons for that. I talk to them about color calibration and I do it in very plain language so that it makes total sense to them, and they're not all like glazing over because it's photographer speak. Okay, so that's just like, that's something that you can, I think, address beforehand. But if it happens, if you haven't addressed it and it does happen, you walk into the house. I mean, it just depends on sort of like what exactly happened. But if you walk in and it's this horrible pixelated image, if the client, you know, paid you for what your contract said, and you feel satisfied with that, you know, I might just say, oh, I'd be happy to give you a print resolution of that file for either this price, or if they have been a loyal client for a long time, I might even do it complimentary just because I value their friendship and business. But just make it easy for them. I think a lot of photographers will, you know, confront someone about something without making the solution easy, and you know, you can remind them if you want, like, you don't have the rights to print that, but I would go about it as, oh, it looks like you printed one of the resolution files. Those files aren't printed. Look, it's pixelated. And I would kind of show them and talk them through it. And then have a conversation like, I would be happy to give it to you for this price. You know, I can apply the discount for the a la carte items of your last package. You know, I would just make a really easy, really clear solution.
That's good.
That's my approach.
Okay. So what... In a couple weeks, one of the webisodes that we're going to be doing in this series is all about expectation management. So, but it starts at the very beginning, obviously, before they even meet you sometimes on your website and things like that. But when it comes to friends, what roles do you apply to expectation management with regards to dealing with friends in your business?
Well, I really don't treat my friends that much different than other clients, because I just try to treat everyone extremely well and make sure that they're super satisfied, which is what I would want for a friend or a client. But I think with regards to your website, you just explain your policies, whatever they are, really clearly, and you can communicate. If you're worried about your friends seeking discounts, you can communicate, I'm not a discount photographer, through your website and your web presence. Everything from your font to your layout to how you show your images to the way you word things, all of those should be orchestrated together to indicate I am a high-end brand, if that's the message you want to get across. So there's that level, which is sort of out there in the ether. Your web presence should communicate a lot of that stuff for you. And then I always have pre-session consultations with my client. I often am in their homes. For various reasons. Those are just part of the services I provide, but I always have conversations up front. You know, here's how it's going to go. Here's how I'm going to make sure that you get what you need to get. I want you to be sure to know that you can ask me questions at any point. My goal for us is for you to be so excited and satisfied with your images that you'll want to tell everyone about them. And that's not actually like a plug for referrals. That is simply saying, if there's anything that happens that would make you hesitate to tell someone about this experience, I want to know so I have a chance to fix it. So just having a very positive conversation, you know, sending them a contract that's very clear, and saying, ask me if you have any questions before you sign it. All of those things go toward just, they know exactly what to expect, because people don't always know what to expect. They don't hire photographers that often. So just making sure to have several conversations beforehand is the way to go, I think.
So do you treat obviously you treat your friends like any other client in terms of kindness, but do you actually go through all the same motions when you do a session for a friend that you would, like a pre-session consultation and a viewing session, or however you sell your photos? Do you do it exactly the same as you would?
Well, yes and no. I find that my friends, when they hire me, often have a very specific idea in mind of what they want from me, because they follow my blog, they know what products I offer, and they say, okay, I want gallery wraps for my house. And so I say, okay. So the sales part might be a little bit different, just because we kind of agree up front, this is what I'm going to be producing for you. Does that, I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
What was the other part of the question? What do I...
I think I was just kind of wondering if you go through all the same motions with your friends as you would any other client.
Pretty much, unless I feel like and if I know that the person knows my policies really well and has followed me for a long time, I might skip all of the explanation I go through to a person who I know is new to me, but it's still in the contract, and so they're still informed of all of that information beforehand.
And do you ever do work for a friend that's kind of outside of your business model, of your brand, or what you do as a professional photographer? Do you ever say no, or how do you say that?
I'm not. Can you clarify the question a little bit?
Like, well, I was talking in the clip before we start talking here. I was saying about how, like me personally, if a friend, you know, sometimes they come to you and go, they offer to let you photograph, say, their child's birthday party or something. But I'm not an event photographer, and that's not part of my business model. So I don't really hesitate to say no, thank you. But do you ever do work for friends or family outside of something that actually benefits your business?
Okay. Yes and no. Usually if someone asks me for something that if they want me to, I've had a lot of people say, will you photograph my wedding? And I'm not a wedding photographer. I have no desire to be a wedding photographer. And so I'll just say, you know, I'll explain why. I'll say, you know, wedding photographers, it's a very different kind of photography than what I provide. And to make sure that you get the best images out of your day, I won't be able to provide that. I'm not a good fit for what you want. And I always state it really positively in a way that it makes it sound like it benefits them. Like, I want to make sure you get what you want. Therefore, I'd be happy to make some recommendations for you, but I can't provide that particular service. I have had a couple of people ask me to photograph events. I do have like a separate event contract and pricing schedule that I use. I don't use it very often. I don't get asked it very often. But when people do ask, I say, okay, if it feels like something that I would be able to provide them a good service, I'll send them that information. But yeah, they still get a contract and they still get charged for it.
Okay. And so the last question I have, before I get to a question that came from one of my readers, is about your recommendation. Something that we talked about already before was something called the psychology of surprise. So can you go through that with our viewers now?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so when you do business with a friend, you obviously want to make sure they have an extra special experience because they're your friend. You want to take care of them, and you want to make sure that they get the most out of it. But you also want to treat them like a client so that everyone's expectations are on the same page, like we talked about before. And so what I do when I want to give a client a bonus, regardless of whether they're a friend or not, I do it as a surprise. So, for example, I will pay attention very carefully during the session to everything that they say, so that I know at the end what would be most meaningful to them. So, for example, I had a client once who told me during the session that her little boys had grandparents who loved them, but they lived very far away. And so what I did was I said, okay, after she had placed her order, I had custom postcards made that had these beautiful images of the little boys on it. And I put up a little note in with it that said, you know, write a love letter to your grandparents. And I explained, I'm sure your grandparents will love to see these and that, you know, it'll be easier for you to send than like a full letter because getting kids to write a letter is a hassle. And it's just a postcard. All they have to do is put a stamp on it. The kids can scribble a picture and drop it in the mail. It makes connecting with their grandparents easy. And that just blew her away because I was making her life easier. I had listened to what she had told me. And a surprise like that is a very strong emotional memory, and it will do much more to benefit your relationship than if she had expected that up front. So if I had said, okay, if you order this many canvases, I'll give you postcards, then it becomes part of her expectation, like, this is something I have a right to, this is something I'm going to get. But when it's a surprise, especially from a business, people, first of all, go nuts. They want to tell everyone about you because it was so unexpected. It's just a very positive, emotional thing that is really easy to implement and will make a huge impact on your friendship and your client relationship.
Oh, that's really nice. I like that idea. So do you do that for typical clients as well, ever?
Yeah, I do that for every client. Because I know my friends better, I can usually give them something that I know will be more meaningful to them because of our relationship outside of the client relationship. But it's huge. I mean, Zappos, I don't know if they still do it, but when I ordered some shoes for my wedding, I got this email that said, you're going to get, we've upgraded you for free to 2-day shipping. And I think they do that with all their orders. Yeah. But if they had just said, okay, our service comes with 2-day shipping, and it was a selling point, I would have expected that. And it kind of would have become like my right. This is my right when it's something that they're doing for, but because it was a surprise, it totally changed the way I viewed their business. So surprises are just really useful, really positive things, and they're just fun.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, there's I can't remember what it is. Obviously, it's not that memorable. But there's a company I buy from regularly, and whenever they send me whatever it is I buy regularly, they always include a jelly belly jelly bean, just one, wrapped up in one of those little wrappers. And my heart skips a beat. And I go, oh, I love whoever these people are. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a camera accessories company or something. But whenever I get my stuff from them, that little jelly beans in there, I get really surprised. So I can imagine that surprise would be amazing if it was actually like an image of my child or something. So that's a great tip. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So we have a question that came through when I first said that we were going to be talking about this topic. And this is the email I got. She said, I have a friend who wants me to do their family pictures. They haven't had family photos done in a long time. I have no problem with that. So after jumping through hoops to get them scheduled, I got a text message the night before, not a call, that said we needed to cancel. And she goes on to say that this has happened twice now, and she's trying to run a business, and with her booking her spot, it takes a spot away from someone else. She says, I don't know what to do. I'm pretty sure that what you've already said covers that, but tell me what you think when you hear this scenario. If you haven't set those expectations about what happens upon cancellation in your contract, what are you to do if your friend messes you around this way?
That's tough. Well, first of all, I'm so sorry that happened to you. You're not alone. It happens to everybody at some point. You're not alone. Okay, if the friend has not signed a contract where the rescheduling policy is clearly outlined, I would just consider it like, okay, well, I didn't have them sign a contract, so I'm just going to have a clear conversation with them and explain to them why this is damaging. And just say what you just said. Like, you know, if it were me, because I'm a low volume studio, I would say something like, in order to make sure that you get the best service possible, I do not schedule any other clients on the same day that I schedule you, so that I come totally fresh, ready to be creative. I am just so excited to create beautiful images of your family. In order for me to provide you with that level of service, I have to turn away all other business on the day that you book me for. And so when you cancel, I don't have an opportunity to fill that time with somebody else. And that is damaging to my business. And if they're a good friend, they should understand that. And so I would just put something in place for the futures and say, okay, I know you had these things come up. What we're going to do is we're going to book a date, and I don't know if this person has them pay their session fee in advance or not. I always do, but I would say, okay, we're going to pick a date. Your session fee is going to be a deposit for that date, so that I'm assured that I have a client on that date and that I don't turn away other business. And if you would like to reschedule, you have this much time to reschedule and you won't be charged. But if you reschedule sooner than that, like within 7 days or whatever you want to make it, then you're going to lose your deposit just because I have to turn away other business on that date. That's how I would handle it.
That's great. Wow, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate you helping us answer that email, because I noticed that you are actually offering mentoring now. So people can get in touch with you when they have these situations. So anyone out there who wants to get in touch with Jenika, she can help you even formulate a specific response to someone and deal with a specific session, or help just walk you through the things that you need to know in order to deal with people in an appropriate way. So that's it. Quick and painless. I thank you so much for talking to me on Skype. I feel really honored to have met you, and or to have met you. It feels like half the people I know now are just in Skype. But I really appreciate that, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And thank you everyone for watching. This marks the end of episode 2 in the Rock the Shop Business channel. Next week, tune in and we'll be talking about portfolio building, what it is and how you get one, and how you know when you're finished. It doesn't usually last as long as you think it will. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.